Alright, my 2020 Ford Ranger pickup just hit 9,027 miles. I'm going to go ahead and do my first oil change. You can still see I have about 12% left, but I'm going to go ahead and change it now, and I'll show you guys what it looks like. A couple things before we get started. You can see I've already driven the truck up on ramps. If you've never done that before, just keep one foot on the gas and one foot on the brake, and that way you can just kind of nudge it up. I'm on a little bit of an incline, which leads to a little bit more difficulty level, but it'll be just fine. So I drove it up on ramps, and I've got the parking brake set, and I've got a block of wood behind each rear tire, because again, my driveway's a little bit sloped, I want to be safe, okay? Then I've got a ratchet set, got some deep sockets in case when I get under there it's not what I expect, because I don't know what size the drain plug is yet. I've got 5 liters of 5W20 Valvoline oil. I've got the official Motorcraft Ford oil filter. I've got an empty bucket, and I've got some rags. So let's get let's get underneath it and get started. All right, so right away I'm impressed. It looks like the oil drain plug is really easy to get to. You can see it right by the cross member here. I'm gonna try to zoom out so you guys can see where I'm going. Let's start at the front of the car. So here's the bumper. There's the bottom of the radiator support. Here's your first strut. Coming past what looks to be the steering. And then right here, you'll see the drain plug right here. Okay, right next to this engine mount right here. So there's the drain plug. The only thing I'm a little bit concerned about is you can see those marks on it. It looks like it's been rounded a little bit. Which is weird because this has never had the oil change before. I know that they're required to do some inspection at the factory, which is probably why that mark is there. But I'm a little bit concerned as to why there's rounding marks on the plug already. Hopefully it's not over torqued, but we're about to find out. Alright, so I've located the correct size for the drain plug. It is a 15 millimeter. I wish I had a 6-point 15 millimeter, because this 12-point, you can see it's got 12 nubs inside. That fits a little bit loose on there. Hopefully it comes loose all right. But then again, it's a 15 millimeter. I prefer a 6-point, but this is a 12-point. I'm just gonna go ahead and loosen it, and then I'll get the drain pan under here. Okay, so it was not over torqued. That's good. So let me get the drain pan, and I'll be right back with you. All right, so I've got all the oil drained out. I've got the plug back in, just hand tight for a second. Before I wiped anything, I wanted to show you where the oil went. So we've got a little bit of oil over there to the side of the oil pan, of course some right below the plug. Some of it got on the cross member here. I'll wipe that off with a rag. And then I'm glad I had the cardboard, because I did get a little bit of spill before I adjusted where the bucket was sitting. Again, this is the first time changing this, so I had no idea what to expect as far as where the oil was going to go. So I recommend, at least your first time, get some cardboard down just in case, because you don't know where it's gonna go, especially if it's windy. So I'm going to torque this drain plug real quick, and then we'll get out and we'll put some new oil in. All right, I've got everything wiped down. I've got the oil plug in just barely tight, and then what I do is I just give it a little push like that. That's plenty. You don't want to over torque that plug, because if you strip those threads out, this is usually aluminum. If you strip those threads out, you're going to be in a world of hurt, because you're not going to be able to seal up your engine, and you don't really want to run your engine with no oil in it. So don't over tighten that. Snug plus a little bit of a turn is plenty. All right, so here's the old oil. No surprise at the color of it. That's pretty much what I expected after 9,000 miles. What I am a little bit surprised at is, you can see I'm close to that 6-quart mark, and if I tip this, there's the 5-quart. So I'm right about 5.5 quarts of what came out, which is a little bit surprising, because I thought that the capacity on this was 5-quart. So I'm gonna go ahead and put the 5 quarts in that I've got, and then I'm going to make sure and check the level to make sure that it's full before I drive it. I may have to run out and get another quart before I'm done. Alright, now that we've got the oil plug back in and torqued, it's time to change the oil filter. I'm not quite as thrilled about this part because it looks like it's a little bit difficult to get to. I'm right here where the transmission and the engine join together, and just to the driver's side you can see the filter up there, right there. What's neat is it appears to have a drip tray, so that looks like a drip tray, and it has a channel coming out, so you can put a bucket or a pan back here and the excess oil that spills out of the filter should drip out right here. So it's kind of neat that they have kind of like a gutter catch system there. But what's not neat is how to get to that filter. It looks like I'm gonna have to come over behind the driver's side tire, remove this panel right here to get to that oil filter. So I'm not happy because I can't start the truck with no oil in it, and I have it up on stands, so I can't really turn the tire when I'm up on ramps. So I'm gonna see if I can get to it without turning the tire. If I can't get to it without turning the tire, I'm most likely gonna have to roll it off the ramps without starting it and then turn the tire so I can get to that filter. So let's try it out. All right, so the good news is I was able to get my right hand up in here and start turning the oil filter, and it looks like it feels like it's gonna come loose, so Ford did not over torque it. So I'm gonna finish doing that. I don't think I'm gonna be able to actually get me unscrewing it because the awkward camera angle, but I'll try. But I've got my bucket set up right here, hopefully directly underneath that drain right there. And let's see how much the oil actually goes in the channel and goes into my bucket. I've got the cardboard down below just in case, but let's try. All right, so the good news is I was able to get my right hand up in here and start turning the oil filter, and it looks like it feels like it's gonna come loose, so Ford did not over torque it. So I'm gonna finish doing that. I don't think I'm gonna be able to actually get me unscrewing it because the awkward camera angle, but I'll try. But I've got my bucket set up right here, hopefully directly underneath that drain right there. And let's see how much the oil actually goes in the channel and goes into my bucket. I've got the cardboard down below just in case, but let's try. All right, here it goes. It's starting to come loose. Oh, and we've got oil draining out of the little drain channel. So I'm just going to take it a couple more threads off. I'm not going to take the filter all the way out yet. The filter's still up there, but it is draining out. And it's going down the little channel as intended. So I'll take it off a little bit more now because it's just trickling a little bit. Alright, it's almost all the way off. My plan is once it comes loose off the end of the threads, I'm going to kind of tilt it towards the engine to finish draining, and then we'll see if we can get it down out of there without spilling oil all over ourselves. Okay, it's off now. Quite a bit of oil came out of that spout, and some did come off onto the cardboard just now. I'll show you in a second. So, should have worked on our bucket positioning a little bit. But what I'm going to do with my hand is I'm going to turn the filter upwards now. And I'll try to pull it down through here. It's a tight fit because there's some type of cable right above it there. But I was able to get it out of there without spilling any on my face. And let's come down here and see the damages. All right, I did spill a little bit of oil past the bucket, but it looks like it's all on the cardboard still. So get that before it gets on my driveway. All right. Yeah, so we got some oil on the cardboard. I should have positioned, I wasn't expecting that sudden spurt when I pulled the oil filter all the way off. So there's the channel, there's the middle of my bucket, so I should have positioned it back a little bit more. But overall, not bad. let's get that new filter. All right, here's the new filter. It's a Motorcraft, Ford Motorcraft FL910S. I don't know what the difference between the Ford Motorcraft and the Fomoco is. Obviously, that's Ford Motor Company. So that must be just their factory filter, and then this is their filter that they produce for actually sales, right? But you can see that the diameter is exactly the same, and the height is exactly the same. Let me flip it over for you. Right. Actually, it appears that the Motorcraft one is about a 1/4 inch shorter. That's okay though, it might just be a difference in how sharp that dome is right there. But the diameter is the same, the thread should be the same. So I'm gonna put a little bit of oil on the seal, which I always do before I put it on, and then we're gonna get up there and screw it on. And I got the new filter here. I'm gonna squeeze it up through there. Okay, I'm gonna turn it so the threads are towards the truck. I can't see what I'm screwing onto, so I'm gonna have to do it completely by feel. Okay, feels like I'm on there. It's spinning on. Quite a few threads to go. All right, it's starting to get snug. Not quite there yet. Wow, there are quite a few turns on there. Okay, so now it just got snug. So what I do is I go snug plus about half a turn. No more than that, because I don't ever want to have to use a wrench on that to get it off. Which is another reason why I put a little bit of oil on the O-ring seal before I screw it on there, just to prevent it from binding up. So again, not as bad as I expected. It looks like I need to wipe a few drips out of this tray so that they don't go on my driveway, and then we should be all set. So the good part was that I was able to do this all from underneath the truck without getting it off the ramps or anything, without having to go behind the tire to get to it. I was able to reach my hand through there and get it. If it had been over torqued, I probably would not have been able to get a wrench in there, and I would have had to remove that side panel. So that's all good. I'm happy with that. The one thing that I don't like is now I have to take my rag and I have to wipe out the entire bottom of this cup, and I have to try to wipe out this whole channel because I don't want any surprise drips of oil on my driveway after I pull everything out from underneath here. So I gotta wipe this whole section out with a rag, like so, to make sure I don't get any drips later. So that's a little bit of a pain in the butt, but I guess it beats a face full of oil when you take that filter off. All right, here's the filler cap right next to the dipstick for the check the level. So just gonna take that off of there, put it in a safe place. This is a little bit more narrow than I was expecting. You can see there, it's not as big around as I expected. Most of them are a little bit bigger. So I'm gonna have to go ahead and get a funnel so that I don't splash oil everywhere while I'm filling it. So let me get that and I'll be right back. Nice little surprise here. So this is one of those radiator size funnels I already had, and it actually not only fits in there perfectly, but it fits nice and snug. Look, it holds itself in there. It's pretty solid. So that's nice. It won't flip out of there while I'm trying to pour. So I take it back. That's not a negative, that's a positive. I really do like that it fits that perfectly. Pour up. I've got my 5 quarts of Valvoline here. All right. I like Valvoline's new pour top. It seems a lot easier to pour through, and knock on wood, it doesn't really glug while you're pouring, so you don't have to get that little blurp that misses the funnel. So I do like what they've done with their pour top. I primarily use Valvoline. It's what I've always used. I've used it for as long as I've ever worked on cars, except for my old man. He was cheap and always used the Walmart brand or whatever. But our old cars growing up on the farm went through a heck of a lot of oil, so we burned almost as much oil as gasoline. So I guess it was pretty smart of him to buy the cheap stuff. But I tend to run newer cars. I need some really good reliability with my job. I'm not allowed to have a car that's older than 5 years, so I run the good stuff in mine. Looks like we got all the oil in. I'm gonna let this drain a little bit, and then I'll put the cap on and start her up. I'm gonna start her up. So now what we need to do is we need to go out to Settings, Vehicle, Oil Life, and press OK to reset. So I'm holding OK down. Oil Life is reset to 100%. So I'm going to back this thing off the ramps to level it out, and then we'll check the oil life. I'm sorry, we'll check the oil level with the dipstick. Alright, took the dipstick out, wiped it off, put it back in. Pull it out the second time. Alright guys, you're about to see me putting oil in this for the second time. And I'll tell you why. I screwed up, and I'm willing to admit it. While I was filling last time, I realized I was putting in 5W20, which is what my last Ford took. My Ford Fusion took 5W20, so I just got it out of habit. Didn't even think to look at what this Ford Ranger takes. So you can learn your lesson from me and get 5W30. Since I had to run to the store to get it, I decided I might as well go with the Motorcraft synthetic blend, since that's what they recommend for this truck anyway. So I'm gonna go forward using that on every oil change now. I'll just stick with the same Ford Motorcraft brand. Again, it's 5W30, and it does require 6 quarts. I checked the dipstick afterwards, it was low, so I went ahead and got a 6th quart. So here's my 5-quart jug. See if it'll stay there and drain a little bit. And here's my 6th quart right here. So I'm gonna put all that in, double check the level, learn my lesson. I did have to drain all that 5W20 out that I put in there. So I went ahead and drained it out. There it is right there. Sorry, there it is right there. So it's kind of weird because I just put clean oil in and drained it back out again. And it already looks kind of dirty, so maybe it's a good thing. Maybe I kind of used it to rinse out my my engine a little bit like mouthwash. Anyway, yeah, so there's the original oil change there. I had to dump that in that jug and then drain again the 5W20 I put in there and put 5W30. So learn your lesson from me, check the specs before you buy your oil.